Bum 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 bum. The Peter Dislike Show. Bum 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 bum. All right, please continue to pray for me. I'm kind of in a fork in my life at the moment. I have to decide if I want to pivot my career here in Taiwan or go back home to the United States, each with its own pros and cons. I obviously have some connection in the US. It's not a lot, but some. And also, obviously, I know my way around there a little bit better than here, although it's probably not the end of the world. Uh, I can't tell you how many times. I mean, as much as I like it here in Taiwan, there's a lot of how do I do this, how do I do that, a lot of confusion sometimes navigating my way around here. One thing I've noticed about American culture is that people dump on each other just to get ahead in life, right? So I can't tell you how many times at work my colleagues, their only purpose of complaining about something trivial about me is to make themselves look better. I had a situation. I had one student who I had chased all around campus. He was behind taking his midterm, taking his final, and in the midst of doing that, a few things fell by the wayside. Right, I got to admit I got a little bit lost with that. I love all of my students so much that sometimes I lose track of things, and my colleague decided he needed to make a fool of me. I had made a disaster in the break room. What had happened, I was just getting ready to eat, and my student calls me, and he's ready to take the final. And I mistakenly left a disaster and forgot about it. I was so excited that my student was ready to take the final. And my colleague decided he needed to email me and my boss and HR and everybody else. For what reason? Does he really think HR is going to come to the office at 2 in the morning to take care of that? I mean, his only purpose is some kind of vengeance or some kind of trying to get ahead of things, right? I mean, I wish I could say that was an isolated incident. I learned the hard way that, let me talk about another example. I was working on my PhD. This was in the mid 2000s. I had started at the University of Pittsburgh. Give you an idea how much I hate them now. One of my friends suggested that I build Lego into the Cathedral of Learning, but I'm so upset at the University of Pittsburgh that I don't even want to do that. What had happened, my first day at school, I decided that it wasn't healthy to sit all the time, and I wanted to stand. Now, if this were today, I would just go to HRA. I'd like to see if we have a standing desk, right? But this was back in 2006, where that wasn't as popular. I had looked behind me, and there was this bookshelf full of like old books. They had dust all over them. Nobody had touched them in decades. And I thought that I could put those books underneath my computer, put my computer on top so I could stand. Now, my classmate, he comes back to the office and he starts grilling me about how I had left the door open and somebody had stolen all of his quote unquote valuable books that his grandfather had given him good money for, something like that. I can't remember the exact details. And had he come in with a calm voice, hey, I noticed my books are missing. I would have said, hey, they're underneath my computer. I apologize. I didn't realize they were yours. He came in like he was about to kill somebody. And so I left the office to let him cool down. I took a walk in downtown Pittsburgh, spent an hour and came back, and the books were back on the shelf. I thought, okay, he figured it out. He had told our dean about this. Our dean was really upset, and I was like, how am I going to explain it? He's not going to understand why I'm standing and all that. And I just said, I apologize. But he thought I was messing with one of my students, pranking one of my students. Looking back, I've learned the hard way. It's better to be embarrassed than to be misunderstood. Yeah, I was trying to stand, and I got scared when he screamed his lungs out. I thought I would go out and he would look for his books. That's probably how I would handle it today. At the time, I was embarrassed about the idea that I wanted to stand at my desk. Long story short, I never had a good time at the University of Pittsburgh again because everybody was always looking at what kind of mistakes I was making. You got to remember, I am autistic. I sometimes don't explain myself very well, right? The fact that I wanted to stand, the fact that I got scared to death about this fellow classmate of mine. And here in Taiwan, I can't imagine any of that happening. First of all, people don't come in with that kind of energy. Hey, I noticed my books are missing. Did you see where they are? Oh, those are your books. Sorry about that. Maybe I'll find a different way to, maybe I would have even told them I'd like to stay. I tell people here in the hostel embarrassing things that I wouldn't have shared decades ago too, right? I'm more open nowadays. You guys see, I'm not afraid to talk about how in the past my diet used to give me a lot of anxiety because I didn't want to tell people that I was avoiding sugar, MSG. I would just say no, and people nowadays I'm much more open to talking about it. Again, it's much better to be embarrassed than to be misunderstood. That's a lesson that's been very hard for me to swallow. But and it's not nearly as embarrassing as I thought it would be. I've shared it with even people that when I first meet somebody, it's not as embarrassing to share it. I avoid sugar for personal reasons, or I'd like a standing desk, or I don't know what's new today, but here in Taiwan, it's a lot easier than in the U.S. I want to say. I definitely feel a lot easier opening up here. In fact, the other day I opened up about asking my roommates here if they could tell me if they noticed anything off about me because I'm just about to go to a job interview. What's really funny and kind of frustrating is I know they noticed something, but they weren't able to say it. It was subconscious. But at least I opened up. And hopefully I planted a seed because obviously I'm going to see these people again possibly. I hope I planted a seed at least. The other thing I noticed is that it's okay to say something that doesn't have an immediate answer. Sometimes you got to plant seeds, right? Whether it be at the workplace with social events, plant a seed, right? Or even with society in general, right? In 2005, had I told my classmates that I liked a standing desk, I'm sure other people were doing that. That's why we have standing desks today, right? Other people have planted seeds that have benefited me, right? And I need to do the same for society, right? All right, please continue praying for me by leaving a dislike on this video. I don't have any viewers right now, so I guess I'll continue some other time. This is the Peter Dislike Show. Bum, 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 bum.